Welcome to the Cult of Flair, my podcast where I talk about personal style, creativity, interior design, and life design. Sometimes I just kind of talk to myself about ideas and thoughts and opinions that I think might be interesting to you guys out there. Today is one of those days. I like to call this Flair on the Fly, a shorter format episode. And sometimes I call it the Flair Five, and today is one of those days. In the spirit of this bright, new, shiny year ahead, 2025, I'm leaning into the word trend, picking a word instead of a resolution or instead of a list of resolutions, a word for the new year. I've learned that resolutions are a tall order for me. I think I actually subconsciously resist them. It's too restrictive. I make them and I start with 3 and then suddenly I'm at 20 and then I think, I can't give up 20 things. I can't learn 20 things. I can't do 20 things. And so, yeah, it doesn't go well. So now I just love this whole trend that people are setting words as intentions. And I'm doing that. But because one word is super limiting for me, if anyone out there has read my Instagram posts, you know my captions are really long. And even my Substack newsletter, my poor editor, amazing woman, tells me to write an essay that is 300 words long. I then send her an essay that is 1,000 words long, and it's up to her to work her magic and whittle it all down into something concise and tight and cohesive. Even my old journalism professors at USC would send back all of my class assignments, the articles I wrote for newspapers, and redline them to death. Back in the day, it wasn't called redlining, it was called redacting. So everything was just inked up because I have a tendency to say or write too much. So my one word trend is really going to be 5 words. The concepts of what I'd like to focus on next year for sort of a better version of me and what I'm going to focus on, as I just said. I'm going to take these words. I am going to write them down on one of those giant poster board sized Post-it note things you get at Staples or Office Depot. I'm going to stick it up in my office, in my closet. I think I'm even going to shrink it down and laminate them and have one in my wallet or my center console so that I can remember what I'm trying to aspire to be or remember next year in 2025. I've made these 5 words. Drum roll, please. Like I'm making it sound like you just can't wait to hear them all, but I still have more to say, shocker. I've made them all adjectives instead of nouns because somehow to me, when it's an adjective, it feels more like a character quality that ultimately one day I would love others to describe me as having, because I definitely do not necessarily have these now. It's also relevant this week because we are here in Newport Beach. We've just attended a memorial for a dear friend we've known for decades who passed away unexpectedly. And being at the memorial, listening to his friends, his family, his young adult kids in their 20s, who I've known since they were 5, it was so powerful just listening to the character qualities that he demonstrated on the daily. It's thought-provoking. It makes you think about how you want to show up for other people. So I'm going to give it a whirl. Here are my 5 words for 2025. The first is steadfast, which sounds like I'm trying to be like impressive and literary, or even sounds like it could be a church word, but basically it's a fancy word for staying the course. Instead of being frustrated with a lack of momentum or ability to make things happen that I want to, and just like blowing it off and not doing it at all, I want to focus on staying the course and being steadfast in my intentions, including my intentions of keeping these intentions, these words. I could use being a better cook as one of those. Forever being a better cook every single year would be on my list of resolutions, and I didn't do it when my kids were growing up. But if I am steadfast in my commitment to actually think about dinner in the morning, maybe think about having the ingredients ahead of time, maybe my sweet husband at 4 p.m. when we look at each other and say, what's for dinner? And I have nothing up my sleeve because I have none of the groceries in my house. We just end up going out for takeout or getting takeout. And so I'm going to try to be steadfast and focused on improving, even in minimal increments, my ability to cook and make dinner. I could also use this word as it applies to business life. Like I get wildly distracted and don't get things done that I should get done. And then I get discouraged and I'm tough on myself, as we all are. I know I'm not unique. But I have been trying for years, especially this past year, to develop and launch an e-commerce site, to develop and launch a fashion line, to develop and launch a merch line, which is developed but not launched, and to develop and launch a podcast, which I did. So I'm saying that just to feel slightly better about myself. But I just get so bogged down in the mire of the day-to-day and the things that need to get done that somehow I lose focus and I get incredibly behind on the other things that I want to develop. And so I'm hoping that if I commit to the word steadfast, I will keep focusing on the incremental successes, mini victories, so that by the end of next year, I will have made big strides and at least tackled one of those things. My second word after steadfast is capable. So, okay, I know I'm capable. I'm a grown-ass woman. I've accomplished and overcome a lot in life, like all of us have. All of you have. I'm not unique. One of the beautiful things about growing older, or growing wiser, as I like to say, is the confidence that comes with having tried and failed and succeeded and overcome. And yet, for some reason, and you might not ever realize this, my default setting is, ugh, I can't actually do that. I can't figure that out. Like, even when I do figure things out, there has never been a thing that I have figured out that hasn't started with my knee-jerk gut reaction of, I can't do that. I can't figure that out. So I would like capable to be a word for next year so that I can just go into a situation, whether it's a difficult conversation, a big design presentation, something that I'm a bit fearful of that I don't know what it's going to look like on the other side, and remind myself that I am capable of coming up with creative solutions, capable of having difficult conversations, capable to evolve and learn new things. And hopefully it's also the coats and the e-commerce site. My third word after capable and steadfast is focused. I might be the most highly distractible person you've ever known, whether you know me or not. I've never been tested for ADD or diagnosed. There was no such discussion when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s and early 80s. I never even heard that diagnosis or those letters used together as a thing until mid-80s when I was in college. And now I've read and learned so much about it. And when I sometimes suggest to my friends and family, like, I think I might be ADD, they laugh and then give me about 70 examples of why they know that I am. I find it mostly funny and we laugh, but sometimes it hurts my feelings a little, not gonna lie. So I want to focus on being focused for next year. I actually, as an example of this, I used to do something as a coping mechanism that I feel like, when someone is disadvantaged in some way, they come up with their own coping mechanisms. I did this for years up to about 2 years ago. It probably started 20 years ago, where I would make this very specific kind of to-do list. To-do lists are not original, but how I had them for me worked so well. And then I didn't intentionally move away from that. But earlier this past year, I realized that in the last couple of years, I just don't even make the darn lists. I just wake up and I get shot out of a cannon and I try to do so many things and then I lose focus on what I'm supposed to do. So here's my example of my to-do list. I make it highly visible, highly visual. I get a ream of paper that is literally the most obnoxious color, that is like highlighter yellow, hot pink, apple green, bright orange, something neon. So that if I'm staring at my desk and there is a sea of printer paper around me, that is all white and it's all black words. I make my to-do list on a colored piece of paper. So if it's in the car, on my desk, in my purse, I can see it in an instant. I don't write with a ballpoint pen or a pencil for my to-do list. I use a black Sharpie, so it's literally screaming at me like it's been bolded so I can see everything. Then I divide it into segments because it can't just be one big laundry list. I make it very specific. So one category is go, all the places I need to go that day or couple of days. Another category is email. Used to be computer, and that was too broad. Now it is email. People I need to contact or return emails to. The third is contact, but that's specifically text or phone. So that means the difference is it's on my device and I can be doing it in my car instead of on my laptop, focused at a desk. I have a category that is like home life admin. Literally, there can be things on there like buy the ingredients for dinner, make or take your vitamins, do the things that you promised your husband you were going to do at home, sweep, feed the dog, just little things that you should remember. Even if you will remember, it kind of makes me feel like a tiny little bit of success when I can cross it off, knowing full well I've already done it or will do it without forgetting. So it's basically a section that is go, a section that is do, a section that is email, a section that is text call, home, admin, things like that. Yeah, so I'm not just hopping and floundering through my day. I can be intentional and focused about it. So, 3 of the 5 words. We have steadfast, we have capable, we have focused. My 4th word is actually 2 words that aren't really a word because, again, I struggle with being limited. It's flexible, but I also wanted the word adaptable, and then that would make it 6 words. So I fused them into 1 word. So my 4th word is flexible, adaptable. I want to be more flexible in how I go through my life next year, how I react to people, how I react to myself, how my thoughts, how I adjust to people's expectations. I can have a really firm belief about how a situation, a relationship, an argument should go down. I can be downright stubborn. I love when I'm surprised. I love when I go into a situation absolutely convinced it's black and white. And then I learn, and I've gotten better about this in recent years, that it isn't what I expected and it is fluid and I should be flexible. And the situation isn't what it might have seemed in the beginning. Yeah, it adapts and morphs into something else. So I'm focusing on the fact that everything in life is adaptable, relationships, my business, interior design projects. We can start out with a design concept, or a client can give us their design concept, and the end product can look so vastly different than what we ever set out to do in the beginning. And I always like to remind people, it's not that the beginning part was a mistake. It's all part of the design evolution process. And it took all of those iterations to get us to the thing that is beautiful and wonderful at the end. So nothing in life is black and white, especially in art, creativity. Everything is gray or fluid. And I really think it can or should be, or at least that it should be more leaning that way. So if it's not gray and you're more comfortable with black or white, I'm going to say maybe it should be like dark, dark, dark charcoal gray or creamy vanilla ice cream white. So I'm on to my last one. We have steadfast, we have capable, we have focused, we have my word I made up, flexible, adaptable, as my Flair Five words for next year as they pertain to me and my life. The last one is listening. I want it to be listener, but since I've committed to the fact that I'm trying to make these adjectives, listeners is a noun and I'm trying to be rule follower. So I'm saying listening as my adjective. This is a tough one for most people, and definitely it is for me. I am typically so busy thinking about my answer or my version of a story or fun little anecdote that I would like to tell when somebody is telling theirs that I realize sometimes I don't even hear what a person says. And I just know that that's not polite and it's not nice. And I would have better relationships. I think I have lots of amazing relationships, but how might my relationships improve if I actually was listening in intently and super present and taking in what a person is saying, whether it's just an exchange of information or a disagreement, if I were really listening and hearing what they're saying. Even having a podcast that I started this last year has taught me this, that I was not as great of a listener as I thought I was in the beginning. I would be so focused about the questions I was asking and then really stressed about what question was supposed to come next, that while the person was speaking, I was looking at the next question. They would stop talking. I had no idea what they said. Early days, not going to lie, I would ask the next question and they would give me a look like I was a dum-dum because they had just answered that question. Like sometimes I would repeat the question. So I'm proud of myself that I am making improvements every time I record these and interview somebody. But this definitely shone a light, whatever it is, that I need to be a better listener and balance what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it with how I'm actually listening and processing the information that they're sharing with me. I could be all woo-woo about this and say I would like to be a better listener to the universe and what the universe is sending me, or what God is trying to teach me, what my partner, my husband, my colleagues are trying to teach me, what my kids are. I just really want to be better and listen. So those are my words for the year. 1, steadfast. 2, capable. 3, focused. 4, my made-up word, flexible, adaptable. 5, listening. I would love to know what your words are. I hope that you reach out to me on social media. It's at the Flairhunter. You could send me a DM. You could send me an email, Stephanie@flairhunter.com. I mostly want to thank you for listening in today, and happy 2025. Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode of The Cult of Flair. I'm Stephanie Hunt. If you like what you heard, please share it with a friend. Follow the podcast on whatever platforms you are listening. Follow me on Instagram at the Flairhunter or at the Cult of Flair. And until next time, go find your Flair.